AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Kelvin Wursten. Kelvin is the Senior Director of Data Science at PointClickCare. Kelvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here, JP.
It's our pleasure. We're glad to have you. So, Kelvin, let's start with yourself. Can you give a brief background of your journey in tech, where you got started, what drew you to it, some of the roles you've held along the way, and take us through your journey right the way up until joining what was formerly Collective Medical, now PointClickCare?
Sure, happy to. So I'm an actuary by background, and when I say that, so I started out in undergrad with a statistics degree, and then decided to go down the actuarial science path. Went through all of my actuarial exams in kind of my first employer, working at a mid-sized health plan in the Midwest, and worked on disability and long-term care insurance, and then transitioned from the accident and health lines of business into major medical as I moved to the West Coast to work for a major health insurer. Received a great background in healthcare in general, looking at healthcare from both the health plan and payer space to the provider space as well, in terms of provider contract negotiations and analytics, as well as then transitioning into kind of cost of care analytics of looking at what are the things that are driving healthcare cost and what are the ways that healthcare costs can be reduced and what interventions are impactful in providing both better healthcare outcomes as well as at a lower cost. From there, I transitioned into my current role working at PointClickCare, where we focus on care coordination and driving better outcomes for clients through closing information gaps and providing better data, and have been here for the last 3 years.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the overview, and it's quite an interesting journey because you started as an actuary, and you've probably seen the evolution of actuarial analytics and then into the origins of data science, because the phrase was coined and you became that along the journey. Working in medical and healthcare data for as long as you have, you're probably in a unique position to give us some insight into just how difficult it is to understand and impact. So that's a nice segue into PointClickCare. Can you sort of give us a high-level overview of what PointClickCare are doing for the industry, and then walk us through your role as the Senior Director of Data Science?
Sure. So I'll give a little bit of an intro on who PointClickCare is. So PointClickCare has a suite of fully integrated applications that are powered by cloud-based healthcare software. PointClickCare leads the way in helping providers connect, collaborate, and share data within their network. PointClickCare has a mission to support vulnerable populations with complex care needs, and our patient population is the least visible across the care continuum, and so therefore there's a real need for access to connect their journey and preserve their health and independence. This population also represents the most variation in terms of healthcare costs, as well, and then our technology can help to repair a fragmented care continuum to ensure patients don't slip through the cracks, and also driving down healthcare costs. So that's kind of the intro of our company, and in my current role, I focus on hospitals, health plans, and ACOs, and my team helps provide consulting analytics to show the impact that clients receive from using our healthcare IT software in terms of reducing cost, utilization, and improving healthcare outcomes. I joined PointClickCare because I experienced kind of the power of real-time healthcare data and how real-time healthcare data can improve health outcomes at a health plan, where historically all of the clinical data we used was claims-based and lagged by up to 3 months, and creating an information gap in care coordination space, finance, and actuarial spaces. And then with that power of getting that real-time insights, it can really drive a better impact in reducing those information asymmetries and providing better care coordination.
Thank you for that. Due to my prior knowledge of PointClickCare, I understand the real impact that this can have for the individual patient, but can you walk us through an example where a hospital or a health facility who prior to using PointClickCare were having specific challenges, and what the technology PointClickCare is offering can do to transform overall patient experience?
Sure. We've had so many examples of this throughout the time I've been here at PointClickCare, from where we provide insights to hospitals when a patient presents in their emergency department. So if you think about the opioid epidemic specifically and the challenges with the opioid crisis, patients often will show up at an ED with seeking pain medications. And the power of real-time data can really be in providing those hospital emergency departments with insights to what that patient's challenges are, because they may not have seen that patient in the past. And so providing them with insights into the prior history of that patient, showing them that they have been to 3 other hospitals that week seeking medications for their substance use disorder, can get them on the better path so that they can be transitioned from the hospital ED, an emergency department, to a medication-assisted therapy treatment center to get better care treatment and then better outcomes as well.
Clearly a mission that you can get behind, and everyone understands that the challenges that are faced from what you're outlining. I want to get your take on the unique challenges that you and your team face working with these health records and medical data, just due to the complexity working across different systems, and what are some of the steps that you guys have to take in order to overcome those challenges?
Sure, it's a great question. Thank you. I look at the challenges we face, and one of them is working in the real-time data space. Data is constantly changing, and there's the challenge of taking data that can be relatively unstructured and curating that across multiple health systems to make it consistent enough that it can be meaningful and used for information. One of the things I always talk about with my team is that we are not here to provide data. We're trying to provide information and actionable insights. And so one of the biggest challenges is really understanding the needs of the client in terms of how specific data can be used in their specific workflow. So an example I think about on the machine learning space, which we work on as well, is I had a machine learning engineer that was working on a model in the past to predict patients that were at risk of developing dementia. And as we talked through that problem, one of the first questions we had to think about was, well, is this actually going to be actionable data to be used to drive better care outcomes? And one of the problems was there wasn't an existing workflow for that machine learning model to be used in. And so what we would have to do is then say, okay, what are the existing workflows that our care coordinators are using today? And then how do we build the right model for their current workflows and insert those actionable insights into their workflow so that it's meaningful and not just data, that it becomes truly actionable insights.
Kelvin, I want to get your take now on, as a senior director of data science within health tech, you're obviously leading a multifaceted team and people coming in at various levels. Healthcare and healthcare tech is probably the most compelling industry for data scientists or a data engineer starting out, but it's often unknown until you get on the inside. What advice or tips or guidance could you offer to junior data scientists or engineers who are just getting started out and are casting a broad net, but have a real interest in healthcare? Is there anything an individual can be working on personal projects that would improve their chances of getting hired for a health tech company?
Sure, it's a great question. As I look at the industry in healthcare data analytics and where things are going, healthcare is so complex. And I think sometimes as data scientists or analysts, we focus on the technical skills of building out our coding skills, and we sometimes miss the importance of also studying the industry that we're working in. And in this instance, it's healthcare. With that complexity, showing potential employers and even your current employer that you're interested and passionate about learning about healthcare and gaining that context will help them see your passion, and it will also help you be a better analyst as you start to understand the business problems better. I think big picture thinking is so important in the data science space, and that really takes a focused effort in learning those industry skills to understand how the healthcare is changing over time, whether that's learning about the Affordable Care Act in 2014 and how that has changed healthcare, to President Biden's changes in the things that he's working on that will change healthcare going in forward and into the future, and everything in between will always help you have a better context. For a specific example, often an analyst may be asked to look for the impact of a specific intervention in reducing healthcare costs. And when you look at what's happening in the industry over the past year, for example, we've had COVID, which has had such a dramatic impact in reducing utilization, specifically in the hospitals, reducing ED utilization by as much as 50% back in April, and inpatient by about 30%. And so if you don't have that context of what's going on in the industry and how those macroeconomic trends are impacting the industry, you may look at those big drops and say, oh, that's due to your intervention, without understanding the broader trends that are happening. And so it's understanding that context of what's happening in the industry so that you can account for those macroeconomic trends on healthcare in your analysis, so that you can show the outcomes that are specifically related to the intervention that you're focused on measuring.
So Kelvin, now I want to switch it back to yourself. You've spent a number of years now in the same industry, moving between companies. Obviously very challenging, but also very fulfilling work. What do you love most about what you do, whether it's leading a data science group or specifically within the health tech industry? What do you enjoy most about the problems that you solve, the projects that you work on, and the overall impact to the industry?
Sure. So I love making sense out of data, complex data, and then telling a story and providing actionable insights. I love digging into data, finding different ways to look at problems, and then coming up with potential solutions. I think about one of the things I've worked on quite a bit in the past as well has been developing KPIs or key performance indicators, and then tracking outcomes towards that goal or that target key performance indicator. And when you think about putting together a target and then tracking and monitoring the progress, you need to not only think about whether you're meeting that goal or not, but then also building out analytics to track what happens when you miss that target. And so you're typically going to get asked when that target is missed, what's driving that miss? And then you have to make sure you have those tier 2 metrics that say, okay, here's if this is being missed, here's the 3 or 4 things that are driving that miss, and then making those connections from that aggregate goal to those second tier goals, so that you can then answer that question right away of here's you're missing the target, here's why the target is being missed, and here's what they need to do to correct and course correct and get back to the right path. And all of that can be done. All of that storytelling can be done with the data if you've planned it up front, so that you're setting yourself up for success in showing the progress that you can make in taking the second tier metrics that help course correct and get you on the right path so that you're meeting that overall target.
So Kelvin, final question from me. You've given us some great insight into the impact that data and data science and AI can have within healthcare. Clearly, PointClickCare are having a tremendous impact on the industry. I want to get your take on what's next. When you look ahead, what are you most excited about? Clearly, PointClickCare are a growing company. There's so many different hospitals that are out there for you guys to connect with. You're successful business, but still a lot more to do. Can you give us some insight into what the next 12 to 18 months look like for your team? What sort of growth is required, and what opportunities there would be for individuals interested in this type of work?
Sure. So I look at over the next 12 to 18 months, and specifically with my team, we're actively growing and hiring, which is a great place to be in as we continue to scale and leverage real-time data to provide those better insights across the care continuum. as PointClickCare continues to grow in the hospital as well as health plan space, those opportunities are continuing to expand for both client consulting in terms of building those analytics to show clients the outcomes that they are seeing, to doing research for better product features and better insights that we can be delivering at the point of care to better improve those care treatment patterns. As the industry as a whole is moving towards more real-time data with a lot of the interoperability initiatives that are happening nationwide, the use of that real-time data is just going to become much more prevalent throughout healthcare, driving better care coordination outcomes.
Excellent. Well, Kelvin, we appreciate you coming on today, talking to us about your background, your role in PointClickCare, giving us some insight into some of the unique challenges that you're solving within the healthcare and on hospital space, and talking to us about the growth. Very exciting times. We wish you and your team all the best in the future, and thank you again for coming on.
Thanks very much, JP.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.